Hello everyone, I hope you're doing alright. Today we're talking about Bodyguard Mercenary. It's kind of baby's first healer for those of you who want to fix all the mistakes that your dumb DPS make. Let's talk about it. Brief disclaimer as usual, I'm not an expert on this spec, I'm just a nerd, I play a lot of SWTOR, but if there's anything that I missed, feel free to leave them down in the comments below. I'm sure your fellow players would appreciate it. For your tertiary stats, no accuracy, you don't need it. Alacrity, get to like 7.2% alacrity, that should be good enough. And then throw everything else into crit and you should be ready to rock and roll. For your legendary, take the SC4 treatment scanner. It's going to give you a whole bunch of stacks of Supercharge and it's going to help with your progressive scans. It's just pretty fantastic. For our legendaries, random charge package is nice. It's just going to give you more free stacks of Supercharge. What more do you have to say? Finally, Concentrated Fire is going to give you either free crits on your rail shots if you're choosing to do damage, or free crits in your emergency scan if you need the healing. It's just free extra healing or damage. What else can I say? For our combat style, Integrated Scan is going to be increasing your healing by 3%, flat out. It's not much more. It's more healing. Great. Power Barrier is going to help you live a little bit longer. Efficient Shells is fantastic. It's going to really increase the efficiency of your Kolto shells. I personally take Supercharge Clarity here to help out my group. However, you can also take Power Overrides if someone else is taking your Supercharge Clarity, or you just need the extra healing in a pinch. You can also take Chafe Flare if you are in like PvP. This row, it's kind of up to you. In PvP, I like Energy Rebounder. It helps you get your energy shield back faster. However, in PvE, you can take Improved Vents and you should be ready to rock and roll with your heat management. Up here, Throw of the Hunt is great for PvE and PvP. However, if you're having trouble surviving in PvP, you can also take Kolto Surge to help with your survivability. It's nice. It's just going to heal you a whole bunch more. Personally, I like the mobility more, though. Up here, you have a couple options. All of these are perfectly viable. Responsive Safeguards is kind of the default here for PvP. It's going to give you a little bit of Reflect. It's very nice. You can take Hydraulic Overrides in PvE if you want like that tiny little bit of extra movement speed. It's okay, but I'd rather be cheesing with Responsive Safeguards. Or if you want to stun, you can take Electro Dart. It's really up to you. Personally, though, I default back to Responsive Safeguards. Finally, Trauma Regulators is what I take here because the other options are kind of dookie. All right. I know this is a healer, but first we're going to talk about doing damage because if you're questing and leveling as a healer, it's kind of miserable. So here are the basics that you need to know. Our basic damaging abilities are going to be Unload, Rail Shot, Electro Net, Power Shot, and our Rapid Shots. So let's break these down. Very straightforward. In terms of single target damage, Electro Net's going to be your most damaging ability. Throw it on the target, boop, it does a bunch of damage over time. It's pretty fantastic. Your Unload does a whole bunch of damage very, very quickly. If you can get the full cast off, it's probably going to be your most reliable damaging ability because it has a shorter cooldown. Now, Rail Shot. I can't use Rail Shot. Why can't I use Rail Shot? It's because Rail Shot is only usable on targets that are taking either periodic damage or targets that are CC'd or stunned. So what this means is you need to have a companion who's either going to be stunning the target for you, or you need to apply a dot to the target yourself. Now this can either be your Electronet or it can be your Fusion Missile. To do that little bit of AoE damage, Fusion Missile isn't that fantastic. However, it does apply a short dot to the target, which lets you use your Rail Shot and do a whole bunch of damage. But all these abilities have a rather long cooldown. When all those abilities are on cooldown, we're going to be filling with Power Shot to do a little bit of upfront damage, and then our Rapid Shots whenever our heat gets too unmanageable. So, one more time for the road. Most reliably, Electronet, Unload, please use Unload, thank you very much. Fusion Missile to make the target vulnerable, and then Rail Shot, and then when all those are on cooldown, be filling with Power Shot and Rapid Shots pretty much over and over and over again. In AoE situations, we have two buttons that we hit over and over and over again. The first is Death from Above. Death from Above does a whole bunch of damage. It also lifts you into the air and makes you do, a great animation. It also knocks all the enemies down in the area. If you see two or more targets standing together, please hit Death from Above. And finally, we have our Sweeping Blasters here, which will destroy your heat and hopefully destroy the target in the process. It does a fair bit of damage, but it's also just AoE. So for those of you that are choosing to quest as a healer, those are the primary abilities that we need to talk about. Okay, we've covered the basics of doing damage in the spec, really just kind of hit buttons, like you're not really in it to do a whole bunch of damage. Let's talk about healing. Now healing this game, it's not like there's a rotation, all right? It's not you're going to say, oh, I have a set rotation that I follow over and over and over again, and then that heals my entire group. That's not how that works. Healing in this game makes you either be proactive with preventing people from taking damage or be reactive to the damage that the game dishes out. All right? So instead of giving you the full-on story of what buttons you should push every single time, we're going to break these abilities down by their interactions and then demonstrate them in probably a Nim Nephra. All right? All right. So the fundamental thing that we are doing while we're playing this spec is we're slowly building up 10 stacks of Supercharge. We can do this through a couple of ways. If you remember, because of our tactical here, every time we use our progressive scan, we will generate 4 stacks of Supercharge. So let's talk about progressive scan very quickly. When you use progressive scan, it will heal a friendly target for 33,000 damage. And then every time that it heals, it will then heal a second player, and then heal a third player, and then heal a fourth player. So for example, if you're standing here watching both Torian and this little astromech droid and I hit progressive scan, you can see it starts healing me, then it starts healing Torian, and then it should start healing this droid, but apparently it didn't want to. All right, so every time it ticks, it will heal an additional player. It's pretty nice. It also does a whole bunch of healing. You can see here, quick stacks, quick stacks, quick stacks, quick stacks on all of us. It's a great ability. Basically, we want to be smashing it every single time it's off a cooldown because it does, a fair bit of healing on its own, but then it's also building those 4 stacks of Supercharge. We want these stacks of Supercharge because when you activate Supercharge, let's read really quickly, it will convert 10 stacks of Supercharge and vent 10 heat. So it's a great way to quickly vent heat, which is pretty fantastic. It's also going to increase the healing done by 5% for 8 seconds, which is pretty fantastic. And then finally, it's going to make healing scan cost 5 less heat and have no cooldown. Let's talk about healing scan very quickly and why that's important. Healing scan is your highest healing ability here. So you see if I heal Mr. Torian, hello Torian, how you doing? Have 51,000 healing. That's a lot of healing that we can pump out very quickly. However, it has a relatively long cast with 2 seconds, and it has a long cooldown of about 11 seconds. So what we can do by using Supercharge gas is that we can actually start spamming those healing scans over and over and over again. So for example, if we use our Supercharge gas, we have our 10 stacks ready to go. Supercharge gas, now we use our healing scan. We can spam Torian with these massive heals over and over and over again for 8 seconds straight. It's a great way to be really healing someone that has either made a massive mistake or a tank that's taking a whole lot of damage, all right? But healing scan does cost a fair bit of heat. You can see here if I use my healing scan, it's going to, cost 20 heat. That's a lot of heat to be generating. But we have some ways to mitigate that, all right? For example, rapid scan. If we use our rapid scan, we'll be slowly building up to 3 stacks of critical efficiency, which is going to make our healing scan cost less heat. Now, rapid scan on its own is kind of like a generic filler healing ability. It doesn't do a whole lot of healing if we're honest here. Like, look, it's kind of 16,000 healing. Not that impressive compared to the Giga Chad 20 or 50,000 healing scans, right? However, using 3 of them in a row or just in general will make your healing scans cost less. So now instead of activating 20 heat, if I use my healing scan, it's going to generate 5 heat. It's a great way to be managing your healing or managing your heat output by slowly generating those 3 stacks. You don't have to generate all 3 of them. Just know that you can cap out at 3. All right. Additionally, we can be using our emergency scan to make our healing scan instantly activate. So you can see here it has a long 2-second cast. Who has time for that? No. If we use our emergency scan, we can instantly cast our healing scan afterwards. So a great thing that we can be doing is we can be going straight from an emergency scan right into a healing scan, especially when combined with the concentrated fire package, which is going to make our emergency scan critically hit. That's a lot of healing that you can dish out very, very quickly. Let's see if we can't just build 10 stacks very quickly here. Excuse me. Thank you very much. So if I use my Supercharge gas, use my crit on my healing scan, 45,000, and then use a big healing scan, even if the healing scan doesn't crit, that's going to do like 70k healing. Just boom, 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 back to back to back. And that's before you even start spamming your healing scan over and over and over again. It's a great way to be buffing people's heals. All right. So far, progressive scan. Does a whole bunch of healing. It generates 4 stacks of Supercharge. Very nice. Healing Scan. Big heal. Big single target heal. Love it, love it, love it, love it, love it. Rapid Scan. Stacks up to 3 times of critical efficiency, which will make our healing scan cost less. Emergency Scan will crit after a Supercharged gas and makes your next healing scan instantly activate. You can see there between the crit emergency scan and the healing scan, that was 100k healing in 2 cooldowns. It's nice. It's a nice little combo. Now, let's quickly talk about our Kolto missile. Kolto missile, to be frank, doesn't do a whole lot of healing in this current patch. However, it is a massive AoE. You can fit almost your entire raid team inside of this AoE. So if I throw down the AoE, boop, it doesn't do a whole lot of healing. It does a little bit of healing over time. It combines for like 17k healing, but there are some upsides to it. For one, as we mentioned, you can hit your entire raid team. Especially in the current meta, there's going to be a whole bunch of melees standing together, so you can just throw a Kolto into all 8 of your players and then do a whole bunch of healing very quickly. 2, it has a very short cooldown, so you have a lot of raid healing relatively quickly. It doesn't do a whole bunch of raid healing, but if there's a dot that goes out that's going to be taking on everyone, it heals everyone for just that little bit relatively frequently. And then additionally, it is a great way to be proccing our random charge package. You remember, every time you hit a target, you have a 10% chance to randomly generate a charge. It's a great way to kind of be farming those charges as they come along. However, it's not the best ability in the world, so it kind of falls down the priority tree in terms of AoE healing. Now we're talking about the ability that people forget about, which is Kolto Shell. Veteran healers will know Kolto Shell is pretty fantastic. New healers would be like, why is it so important? Why is Kolto Shell so great? Well, here's why. If I throw a Kolto Shell on myself, I have 7 stacks of something that's going to heal me for 5,300 ticks every time it heals. This is combined with the efficient shells here, which has that you have a 25% chance to actually keep a shell. So really, on average, we have 9 shells instead of just 7, which are going to heal us for like 5k a tick. Now, doing the math very quickly, without any crits, that's like 45,000 healing that you can be putting on yourself. So here's how these shells work, all right? You throw a shell on the target, and then every time the target takes damage, it will consume a shell, or it has a 25% chance to not consume a shell, and then heal you for a small amount of damage. This is preventative measures, though. This is meaning that every time your DPS does something stupid and stands somewhere they're not supposed to be, or every time an ad spawns and then decides that, oh, this DPS looks kind of squishy, it's preventing them from taking as much damage as they would be otherwise by healing them without critting for 45,000 damage without you actively throwing heals into that person, all right? It's very important that you keep your Kolto shells on as many people as possible. Now, some people like to refresh it at 1 shell. Some people like to wait till it's completely gone. It's really up to you and what you have time for in the moment. Just know that you should probably really be keeping your Kolto shells on the target at all times. All right? All right. It's a great ability. Please be using it. Finally, in terms of healing, we have our Kolto Shot. Kolto Shot heals you for a piddly amount of damage. You can see here, 8k, whoa, 5k, whoa. It's not that great if we're being honest. However, it costs no heat and it will slowly build up to 10 stacks of Supercharge. It's kind of your filler ability. If everyone's kind of at full health and you don't want to be spending a lot of heat, you can always be filling with your Kolto Shot. Additionally, your Rapid Scan will also be generating your stacks of Supercharge as well. So this shouldn't be really your primary way of generating 10 stacks because our Rapid Scans will generate 2 stacks anyway. However, you can see how spamming all of your healing abilities over and over and over again might not be great for your heat, because if you have high heat, heat generates slower. Let me say that one more time. The more heat you have, the slower your heat regenerates, all right? So we can't just be pumping all the time. We have to be very selective with how often we actually want to be pumping our heals. We do have our 1 get out of jail free card, which is our Vent Heat, which I usually use with Progressive Scan, so that way we have 2 free seconds of not generating any heat from our prog stand. It's pretty fantastic. But once that get out of jail free card is gone, you got to be careful, all right? So please be filling with like a Kolto Shot every once in a while, and then be spamming Supercharged gas to kind of help with your heat management if you run into any issues. All right. The final ability that I will yell at you for is this ability right here called Cure. Cure is our cleanse. We can cleanse any physical, tech, mental, or physical effects. So anytime you see a dot on someone that is like a bleed or like a blind, we can be curing those and removing that effect from the player. All right? A lot of times, say in like, for example, a master mode hammer station, you see the tank die because he has all those stacks on the target or on the tank because of the big giant laser thing. That's because the healer didn't cleanse. All right? Please, if you see a cleansable effect, use your cure to cleanse the target. It's really, really important. All right? All right. So, one more time for the road, and then we'll do a quick demonstration. Supercharge gas is great because it vents heat all the time. It's fantastic, and it's going to make your healing scan have no cooldown. We can build stacks of Supercharge by using Progressive Scan, which is very, very nice. Heals everyone, or heals 4 targets for a fair bit of damage. We want to be using it as often as possible. We can build stacks through Rapid Scan, which if we use 3 of, it will give us a essentially free healing scan in terms of heat. We can also use our Supercharge gas to crit our emergency scan, and after we use our emergency scan, we get a free healing scan. Also, when we use our Supercharge gas, our healing scan can be used over and over and over again for big healing burst. Finally, we have our Kolto missile, which is kind of a sad ability, but does a whole bunch of healing to everyone in the area. So it's kind of nice. And then keep your Kolto shells on as many people as possible, and you should be ready to rock and roll. All right? Now, this all means nothing without actually like going out and doing it. So let's do a quick Nephra and then, do some brief commentary. I'm sure you're going to be good to go. All right? All right. Prepping for a fight as a healer is pretty straightforward. Just get your 10 stacks of Supercharge and then throw Kolto shells in everyone, and then you should be ready to rock and roll. Typically, when you open up a fight, you can actually start off by just doing some damage. I like to throw my net, pop my Supercharge Alacrity to help out my group do a whole bunch of damage, throw out an unload and a rail shot, and then start worrying about healing. Now, we discussed previously how healing is much more about being proactive and reactive. So what we want to be doing throughout the fight is that when we have a moment to breathe, we are going to apply our Kolto shells, and then we'll be applying the healing as necessary. You're going to see here, being reactive, the dot is the most dangerous ability here at the moment, so I'm going to spend most of my time trying to cleanse that dot to prevent us all from dying. Again, it's about prioritizing the issue at the moment. Sometimes the issue is that the tank is getting chunked. Sometimes the issue is that the DPS stood in stupid and need to be healed. Your job as a healer is to essentially manage these issues one by one, prioritizing them by what's going to kill me first. So in the current moment, again, the dots go out, we cleanse them. It's kind of the most important thing at the time. All the while, I'm prioritizing prog scans, so that way we have those extra stacks of Supercharged gas, just to kind of help out with our heat management. You're going to see I kind of suck at heat management on this spec. So fortunately though, vent heat comes off of a relatively quick cooldown, so even if you botch and you mess it up, or you have to be kind of bumping heals, you do have your get out of jail free card once every like minute and a half, so it is a little bit of a help, but it's not, it's not going to save your bacon, all right? Every time, you just got to be careful sometimes. Now, breaking down what we're kind of prioritizing here, especially with Insta being on a Sorc healer, we don't have the operative burst AoE healing. So what I'm trying to prioritize here is both our prog scan to get our 10 stacks Supercharged gas, and trying to get out enough AoE heals with our Kolto missile, so that way our group is kind of staying up. We don't have a lot of AoE heals here, so we got to kind of be paying attention to who's actually getting chunked and who's actually not getting chunked. Now, brief disclaimer for all of you people who are going to be healing out here. Healing is a very much a thankless job. Your tanks will blame you for all the issues. The DPS are all monkeys. They don't really use their brains a whole lot. It's your job to kind of be team mom, all right? Your job is to sit here, respond to all the issues as they come through, and just kind of deal with the flame as it comes. Sometimes this tank stands in stupid, and then they think that they don't know, or that you don't know their mechanics, and you have to put them in their place. That's fine. What are they going to do? Kick the healer? No, they're not going to do that, because finding a healer is terrible. It's a completely thankless job, but someone has to do it, and might as well be you. All right? You're going to see here, we kind of run into a little bit of problems. Everyone's kind of down. We're not in that great of a spot. But fortunately, we have a fair bit of AoE healing available through our prog scan and through our Kolto missile. So even though it's not the most powerful AoE healing in the game compared to, say, like An operative, it has just enough and Bodyguard to kind of get us through the little scary moments here. And then we just go back and forth between prioritizing single target heals and prioritizing AoE heals depending on when the damage comes out, cleansing when necessary. This sounds very repetitive, and that's because it is. There's not a whole lot to know about healing. The fundamentals, mechanics of like, here's how the class operates is one thing, but understanding and reacting to the fight is way more important. It doesn't matter how good you are at the actual mechanics of the healing itself. If you don't know the mechanics of the fight and you're not paying attention to what needs to be cleansed and what needs to be dodged, etc., it doesn't mean anything, all right? Healing parses, to be frank, don't matter. Like, the amount of heals you pump out is more dependent on how terrible your group is or how great you are at fluffing. Keeping the group alive is what's most important. So keep the group alive, react to the situation as it arises, and then just know that you're better than everyone else because you queue heals. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them down in the comments below. I'm sure your fellow players would appreciate it. That's all I have. All right. You take care now. Bye-bye.